Ernest, how's it going? Good. Good to see you. Are we good now? Okay. Just as a test, council, can you hear me? That's in Zoom world. Everybody,
can.
sound off. Manny, Dennis. Dee Dee.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
There's no
Yes,
way
I
we
could hear you. I can hear.
Right. And Elise is on too? Okay. Good evening, everyone. It is 6:05. I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Espanola City Council on the second Tuesday of the month. Thank you for joining us. It is Tuesday, March 14th, 6:05, calling the meeting to order. Would you all please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilor Dennis Tim Salazar will lead us in invocation this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure, can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, very good.
This is
Heavenly,
completely unacceptable next time for IT.
okay, the ones at City Hall, can you hear me okay?
No. How about I call you Dennis and then you can speak through the mic there.
Okay, perfect. That's fine. Yes.
I'm gonna call your.
Okay. Okay,
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Turn off your mic on your thing, please.
Okay, I
I
just
turned it off now. So,
Okay,
okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us engage in meaningful discussion, allow us to grow closer as a group, and nurture the bonds of our community. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us this evening. Ms. Garcia, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez,
Honored to be with you all.
Councilors Dennis Tim Salazar,
Present.
Present for the record.
Justin Salazar Torres,
He won't be making it tonight, a family issue.
Manuel J. Martinez,
Present.
Present.
Denise D. Benavides,
Excused.
Dorothy D. Valdez,
Present.
Present.
Aaron J. Salazar,
Present.
Nanette D. Rodriguez.
Present.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Members of the governing body, you have the agenda for you this evening.
Motion to
To
approve.
adopt the agenda as presented, Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez, second by Councilor Aaron Salazar. Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor. There's discussion. Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez.
You can't hear the mayor pro tem?
Hold a minute, hold a minute. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead. Go ahead and then.
We cannot hear her.
You need to turn your mic on, Mayor Pro Tem.
OG Veteranas, and the other one is the Lowrider Association, yeah. And one of them was in committee and the other one was omitted in committee, and that's why it's here, because it's timely. And I hope the council will indulge me on that one, because it didn't get put on an agenda for committee.
Okay.
That's the only clarification.
I actually don't think we can do that. because it's not advertised and it's an action item. Because if it's a different action item, it's a different lease agreement, license agreement.
We're gonna have to have a special meeting then, okay?
Well, I wish we would have known about this because we have a special meeting scheduled for Thursday.
So let me just clarify, okay? So
So did this go to committee?
they were both supposed to go to committee. One of them landed up being at committee, the other one did not land up being at committee, and I think there was a mix up from the beginning, okay? So the OG Veteranas is the one that is timely because your event isn't until July, correct? But this event is in collaboration with the city.
So let's back up. So I understand you guys are having the event in collaboration with the city. Who directed you that you would need co-sponsorship with the city? If you're under the umbrella of the city and you are working with the city, I'll defer to the manager, but if that's the case, there's no necessity for needing co-sponsorship. If they're,
With the city, then there wouldn't be a need for co-sponsorship.
The issue is that they're gonna stay later than the city's gonna stay. So the city's gonna sponsor the Easter egg hunt in the morning. You guys are having another Easter egg hunt in the afternoon, or you're having the same Easter egg hunt? Everybody's gonna have it together, but then you guys are gonna stay for the lowrider show after, correct? So that's the deal.
so Janet, who have you been meeting with from the city?
So Mayor,
Happened was when they talked to me, I sent the committee chair a text, but I think there was some confusion as to the two groups, okay? So then when I come in and say, these guys need to be on an agenda, he misunderstands me and thinks that
Well,
it's the other group.
So let's back up here and
Right.
just a little, hold a minute, Counselor, little housekeeping. We have staff for a reason and we need to utilize the staff because that is their full-time jobs. And when we task counselors with putting things on an agenda and such, things fall through the wayside because it's not their full-time job. Bear with us. Our community services department has had, actually, it's had some turnover and unfortunately, which I should back up actually tonight. A moment of silence for our recreation supervisor from the city who worked for us for 10, 12 years, passed away yesterday. So our community services department is not here tonight to even give an update on that aspect. I would defer to the manager, but I think that we can make an accommodation.
I think we can easily make an accommodation if the city is co-sponsoring and they want to stay after the city is done. I don't see a problem with that.
Okay,
And we apologize, Janet, because we've had some big turnover in that department. And then, like I said, yesterday was another blow to them. So please understand. And if you don't mind, if the council would allow us, can we please do a moment of silence for Miss Maria Sandoval? If we can all please stand. I want to recognize Miss Maria Sandoval. She worked at the city beginning in 2007 to 2011. She came back in 2015, I understand, and she worked with us as the recreation supervisor, running the Lucero Center, the intramurals. She's a former coach for Mesa Vista, very committed and passionate for athleticism, activities, youth programming. What a big loss to the city, a loss to the community services department of someone who was so passionate about what they did and working with the community. So if we can just send our hearts and prayers to her family that has lost a big void, as well as the community services department that is recovering now, and the services are actually tonight. Thank you. So, Mr. Yetzi, can you get with Ms. Terrazas and work on that?
Yes, we'll get
I think that going forward so that we don't have this situation, and I think we can operate under that umbrella if the city would allow. And such because of the timeliness, this might be the only option that we have to handle that. And if you were working with the city, I don't understand why the co-sponsorship would be necessitated. You would operate under our umbrella. So
So, motion again to approve as presented.
there's a motion on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez, second by Councillor Aaron Salazar to adopt the agenda. Retracting the amendment, correct, Mayor Pro Tem? Retracting the amendment, submitting for approval this evening. So with no changes after all. Ms. Garcia, would you please call the roll if there's no further discussion?
Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez,
Favor?
Councilors Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion,
the motion, Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion?
Please, Ms. Garcia, because of the sound problem, can you please publicly announce what their vote is?
yes, sir. Dorothy D. Valdez,
For the motion.
for the motion. Aaron J. Salazar,
In favor.
Nanette D. Rodriguez,
For the motion.
for the motion. Motion carries.
Thank you, members of the governing body. You have the agenda before you this evening. And the consent agenda for the adoption of the minutes from February 14, 2023, City Council meeting minutes, as well as the March 2nd, 2023 special City Council meeting minutes. Yes, yes. Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez to adopt the consent agenda as presented, second by Councillor Aaron Salazar. Any discussion? No discussion. Ms. Garcia, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor?
Councilors Dennis Tim Salazar,
for the motion,
for the motion. Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion?
for the motion. Dorothy D. Valdez,
For the motion.
for the motion. Aaron J. Salazar,
In favor.
Nanette D. Rodriguez,
For the motion.
for the motion. Motion carries.
Thank you. Business with visitors this evening. Life-saving award presented to Mr. Enrico Trujillo from the Fire Department, presented by Fire Chief Johnny Martinez and Assistant Fire Chief John Wickersham. Would you come on up, folks? Chief, DC.
Mayor Pro Tem, governing body, city manager. One of the biggest things that back when I started this, when you appointed me this position, one of the biggest things that you turned around, things that you told me, Mayor, was that one of the biggest thing is that we had to recognize our employees for the stuff that they do out there, and I took that to heart. And we had a public safety meeting last week, and I recognized a lot of employees. I had 2 life-saving awards. I had a firefighter of the year, EMT of the year, an exceptional medal. I had a commendation award, and it went really, really nice. But with the request of our chairman from the public safety meeting, she wanted me to bring the one that stood out the most. The guy that's received this award is not here because he wasn't able to make it. And we also tried to get the family here, but the little girl was sick, so they weren't able to attend. But I did want to share with the council, and the governing body, the letter that when I asked Enrico what had happened when he did this life-saving award to earn it, I'm going to read the letter to you. I'm writing this letter to describe the events that took place on the date of 6/19/2022, Father's Day, per the request of Chief Johnny Martinez. All times are approximate. I, Enrico Trujillo, will off duty on personal time, off on the above date, was going about my day when I made the decision to drive to Santa Fe in hopes of eating at one of my favorite restaurants. The time was about 1700. I knew that I didn't have much time before the restaurant closed, so I attempted to quickly finish up any errands that I had in Espanola. As luck would have it, my departure to Santa Fe was delayed. After finishing my business in Espanola, I then rushed to Santa Fe. Upon arrival to my destination, I was met with a closed sign. I then proceeded to a similar restaurant only to be encountered with another closed sign. At this point, I made the final decision to try one more place. I then called to see if they were open for business. They told me they were open and would close at 9 p.m. I made my way down to downtown Santa Fe with the guidance of my phone GPS. When I was within about 2 blocks of my new destination, I saw a parking garage and decided to park my car there. Finding a parking was near impossible, thus delaying me even further. When I finally parked my car, I proceeded to walk to my new destination on foot. At this point, it was pouring rain outside. As I got closer to the restaurant, my phone GPS advised, "You have arrived." I found myself standing outside a mall-like looking building, so I decided to enter. Upon entering, I quickly scanned to see if I could spot my new destination, to no avail. I then decided to enter further to search. I then noticed the place seemed to be empty. The time was about 1845 to 1900 hours at this point. As I walked in, I heard a woman call out for help in a frantic state. I immediately looked to my left when I saw a woman run out of a store holding a small 2-year-old female child. I quickly made my way to her and noticed the child had appeared to be lethargic, cyanotic, drooling, and apneic. The mother frankly stated that the child was choking. The mother handed the child over to me and I immediately began patient care. I then advised the mother to call 911. I placed the child over my knee while crouched down and administered a series of back blows in an attempt to dislodge a foreign object from the child's airway. This attempt was unsuccessful. I then placed the child supine on the floor, positioned the airway, and performed 2 blind finger sweeps to no avail. In my third attempt, I was able to feel the foreign object. I was then able to dislodge and remove what was blocking her airway. I immediately heard a gasp for air. I then placed the child in the recovered position. The child was able to vomit and then began to cry. As a sigh of relief overcame me, as a crying is a sign that the child was able to move air in and out of her lungs. A rapid physical assessment was then performed. I observed equal bilateral chest rise and fall, lethargic was resolved, and capillary refill was returned to normal. Cyanosis was resolved, and peripheral pulses were present, strong and regular. Child's condition improved, and she became aware of her surroundings, reaching for her mother in a frantic state. I observed what to be the remnants of an orange slice on the floor where the child vomited. I then handed the child over to her mother and took her phone while emergency dispatch was still online. I then advised the dispatcher on the phone of the situation and to have EMS continue the response. I then waited with the mother and her child until Santa Fe firefighters arrived. While I gathered medical information and history of the child, I identified myself and provided credentials to responding personnel. I then advised firefighters of the events that took place. Care was then handed over to the Santa Fe City Fire. Both mother and child were then escorted to Santa Fe Fire Department Med Unit by Santa Fe City firefighters. I then gathered myself and left the area to continue my day. Upon exiting the building, I noticed that my destination was in the building next door. I then noticed that there was a parking area adjacent to my destination. If I would have noticed either one of these things before initially entering the wrong building, then I would have never made contact with the individuals involved in this event. As I sit here and write this letter, I cannot fathom the fear that this mother and child experienced during the events that took place that day. A wave of emotion sets in as I write this. I recall all the pain, emptiness, regret, and loss that us first responders encounter on a day-to-day basis. The words, "Is it worth it?" run through my mind. There is a light in all of the darkness we're surrounded by. Police, fire, EMS, and dispatch often carry a heavy load emotionally wherever we go. I only wish that I can share the joy that I experienced that day with all my brothers and sisters who wear the badge. It is a reminder that our daily duties are for far greater reason beyond ourselves. We do it for them. It is also a sobering reminder that we are never truly off duty. In my humble opinion, I believe that in divine intervention, I would like to thank all of my fire department family, currently retired, and all of my EMS instructors and mentors for providing me with the knowledge and experience to be able to perform the actions that I did that day. Thank you for taking the time to read this letter. And I also want to let you know that Enrico Trujillo was also recognized that night as EMT of the Year for Espanola Fire.
Chief,
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chief. I just want to thank you for doing this. This is something that we've needed for a long time here in the department and to recognize these men and women, what they do on a daily basis. So thank you, Chief, for doing that. We did have 2 life-saving awards. Enrico Trujillo, Alex Swazo was another recipient. He's back there. When Enrico Trujillo's was off duty, which is amazing. Alex was on duty at the fiestas. Another person that was choking and saved their life. We gave out 2 firefighter of the years, Pablo Montoya and Stephen George, but I think he left on a call. The life safety or no, the commendation went to Matthew Herrera for his efforts during COVID. And then Enrico Trujillo got the EMT of the year, and then the exceptional duty was to me. And I just want to thank you again, Chief, for doing this. This is something that was needed, and I appreciate everything you're doing for the fire department. So thank you, sir.
thank you, Chief. Thank you, DC, for all you do for the fire department, for our citizens, and thank you to our firefighters that work so hard to keep the public safe.
Thank you.
We had 4 of our firefighters that went down to hazmat to Socorro. They all passed. We have 2 that are current rookies that passed, and then we have 2, Jeff Sargent and Victoria Trio, that were with our emergency management. It's good.
Great. All right, forgive me if I butchered this name, but Michael Michelanis will be presenting this evening for EM Los Alamos, I'm guessing, EM Lil Wayne.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thank you so much for having us here again. Wanted to go ahead and jump right in. I'm Kelly Harvey. I'm from EMLA, which is the Environmental Management Field Office of Los Alamos. And I brought Michael Michelanis, who's our Field Office Manager. We're going to be working the presentation together. So just a high level, the presentation is to give you a general overview of what we talked about, what I briefly talked about when it came to the strategic vision. So we can go ahead and jump right in here. So for today's presentation, this is the agenda layout. We're going to do a brief overview of the EMLA introduction and then talk about the EMLA strategic vision. which is going to dive into the purpose, objectives, and I'm just going to give you a quick tour of the EMLA Strategic Vision webpage, which has some more information about the project as well. And then we'll talk about the 4 phases, how we broke up the strategic vision. And then moving into the legacy cleanup overview, we'll talk about the projects. So talk about CX True, which is contact handled transactional waste program. And then we'll jump into the environmental remediation program. And then collectively, we'll just do another brief overview about the complexities, risk, and challenges that both programs experience when it comes to their projects. And then moving into talking about phase 2, going back to how we broke out the strategic vision. And then last but not least, talk about generating a stakeholder informed vision, which will go into a little bit about stakeholders, regulatory requirements, budget, and then we'll do a closing, which is just a summary to wrap up everything. So moving on into the next slide here. I'm going to hand this over to Michael.
Thank you, Kelly. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight about our strategic vision and give you a little bit of background. I'd like to begin first with a little explanation of who we are. The Department of Energy has 2 agencies or 2 elements that operate at the National Lab. The first being the National Nuclear Security Administration. They're responsible for the science, the research, the National Defense Mission, and they have a contractor that operates and performs their mission for them. I represent the Office of Environmental Management's field office here. We're responsible for the legacy waste cleanup mission, and I too have a operating contractor that does that work for me. Next slide, if you would. So what is that mission? It's written poetically up on the board, up on the screen, but essentially we're here to clean up the legacy contamination, the soil, the water, and process and ship transuranic waste off the mesa and into the national repository down at the Waste Isolation Pilot Project. Legacy waste is defined as waste that was generated 1999 and earlier. Everything more recent than that, the National Nuclear Security Administration processes and ships that off. There's no more disposal of any waste on the mesa itself. My job is to clean up all the waste that was previously disposed. Next slide, if you would. So I'd like to speak about what is the strategic vision that we're developing for our field office. In 2015, the Secretary of Energy chose to cleave off the environmental remediation mission, the legacy waste cleanup mission, and create its own field office under the Office of Environmental Management. So we're a fairly young field office. When you look at some of the other environmental management field offices across the country in Savannah River or Hanford, Idaho, Oak Ridge, many of those field offices have been in that place for decades. They have very mature processes, very mature plans. When I arrived to Los Alamos a little over a year and a half ago, I recognized there's an opportunity to build a strategic vision. Yes, we have it. We've been working to a cleanup plan. We have our 5, 10, 20-year plan in place, but it was developed by the Department of Energy, optimizing what we thought were the important factors. So last year I spoke to my leadership in Washington, D.C. and described an opportunity that we had here to engage with the communities, the elected officials, the non-government organizations, the regulators and the pueblos that surround the lab in order to build a stakeholder informed, and I'm not calling a pueblo a stakeholder, but a stakeholder, regulator, community, tribal nation informed strategic vision that defines how we're going to do the cleanup mission, both in terms of priorities and even revisit some of the end states that were defined that I inherited. Next slide, if we could. Oh, yes, thank you. I wanted you to click on that and talk a little bit about the next slide.
Okay, and this is just a quick view of what that EMLA Strategic Vision Development webpage looks like. So if you would like to learn more information, Emma, if you can scroll down a little bit. Perfect. So It shows the general overview, which is just a copy and paste from the presentation we were just viewing. But if you look over to the right, there's the content. So if you click on campaigns, you can learn more information about the campaigns and the consent order. Risk and factors is right there below, and then there's additional helpful resources. So in the helpful resources tab, I believe there's more documents from our regulators, and then we also have presentations as well in there. And then if there's information you want to look into about budget, that's also in there as well.
Thank you, Kelly. So I'd like to introduce the purpose and the objectives. What are we trying to accomplish in the strategic vision? I spoke a little bit about that as I described what it is. But first, the purpose of this is to allow the groups that I spoke to, the Pueblos and other stakeholders, to allow them a meaningful role in determining the direction, the completion and the order of the remaining cleanup work. Through this process, we hope to build and strengthen relationships with the communities and strengthen relationships with the tribal nations. And most importantly, to develop a stakeholder informed vision document for the remaining scope of work. Now, the final product will align those objectives, those priorities with the regulatory requirements and the funding stream that's allowed, but that just defines how long it takes to accomplish the mission. So overall, the objective is to develop a long-term strategic vision from the ground up. This is a little unique for the federal government because, quite frankly, large bureaucracies and federal agencies usually develop their plans, roll them out to the public, and then ask the public to tell us what a great job we did. We're trying to do something a little bit different here. I can pause and take questions. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez.
So the planning for the plan is gonna take 12 to 15 months, not the cleanup itself, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that is correct. I wish I had that.
I wish
technology.
you did too.
I would be a very popular person in the.
I bet you would,
if I could
sir.
accomplish that. Good question, though. No, the timeframe that's up here is the timeframe for building a ground up vision that accomplishes all this. So, yeah, as I was saying, the federal government often will develop its own plan, roll it out and ask for comments, or really the hope is that the public will tell us what a great job that we did. But we're working with my leadership. We want to do something different here in the spirit of environmental justice and the Justice 40, which I happen to be a pilot project for the government, and in piloting the Justice 40 initiative. We wanted to try to deliver something that's different by, instead of top downing it, ground upping what it is and taking all that feedback and building a strategic vision. And I'll talk, this slide here describes a little bit about how we're going to go do that. So there are 4 phases of putting together a strategic vision. So the first phase is 1 3-hour information. This is the Generica process. We adapt it to, certainly to the Pueblos, for what their culture and their expectations are. And we also can adapt it to particular groups that we're engaging with. So the first phase is a 3-hour information session for the participants to have a basic understanding of the remaining scope. We're going to schedule these around whatever time works best for the groups that we're engaging with. And we've reached out to several stakeholder groups and the Pueblos to request their participation in the process. This includes elected officials from of the counties that surround Los Alamos, environmental advocacy groups. We're not just reaching out to our fan club. We also want folks who may not necessarily approve or like the way things are being done, because we want their input as well. And we reach out to civic organizations and pretty much anybody that stops their car too long in the area that I'm at. If their windows are rolled down, I'm going to throw an invitation and talk to them for a couple minutes about the strategic vision. Phase 2 is the next evolution. This is where, after you've invested your time to understand and learn a little bit about the basic understanding of the work scope, we sit down with you and we ask for your input. This is in terms of values, priorities, the things that are important to you, because that's where building the strategic vision really accomplishes. It starts from the ground up, because we're going to take those values and build the strategic vision. Phase 3, we take what we've learned in phase 2 and we put it into a software tool that we have that will help us sort through the data, process it, and then we come back to the table. I'm envisioning in phase 3, after we've processed it, imagine we're not up to the presidential debate yet, but a town hall that you might have for a presidential debate, but we're not going to be debating anything. The Department of Energy with my corporate partners will come before the public in a town hall setting. I would imagine both virtual and physical. And we'll start assembling what a strategic vision looks like from where we are today to completing the mission. We'll share the information that we've learned and processed, the values, the priorities, the objectives that we have, and then start assembling the pieces. Simplistically, if you imagine taking the different parts on Post-it notes and sticking and lots of things happening in parallel and then overlaying budget constraints out, we'll start building a strategic vision and maybe some alternatives based on the processing of the information that we have to go consider. And as we do this, I would envision pausing, similar to what we do with our Citizens Advisory Board, for timeouts for the members of the public to come forward, speak, give us feedback as we're doing this in front of them so that we can make adjustments where necessary and put together a strategic vision. Then phase 4 is where we take some of the information back to the regulators, the pueblos, for consultation. And we begin to finalize what was put together and roll it out to the community. Mayor Pro Tem, did you have another question?
I'm just curious at that point, when you're going to be engaging all the different entities, will you be coming in just, a town hall here, a town hall on top, town hall in Arriba?
Great question. We've been reaching out to specific groups up until now, and elected officials, our regulator, we're scheduling. We are also working to schedule, and this is one of my first forays into Espanola, to be able to try to have some inroads and be able to get some interest and attention. I've also engaged with a non-governmental organization in Espanola who I am hoping will be able to help me get some word out and get some interest in it. I'm envisioning a town hall kind of phase 1 and phase 2 in Espanola for Rio County. Santa Fe, I don't think I'll have any trouble getting members of the public to come out for that. There's quite a lot of interest in Los Alamos up there, and then Los Alamos County itself. So I guess, ma'am, I am envisioning countywide, because the elected officials, the non-governmental organizations, and the tribal nations that we connect with, that's not bringing out the mom and pop across the dinner table that I really hope to be able to get. I want to bring out the advocacy groups that may like what we're doing, may not like what we're doing. I want to bring my elected officials into play, my regulators, the tribal nations, but I also have a strong interest and desire to connect with the communities. And I'm kind of new here, so this is my first foray here, to try to get some interest and bring them to the table so we can tell them a little bit about what's going on. I'm going to give you a little overview of that, of what the mission is here, not as much detail as the phase 1. And then hopefully be able to bring them in for phase 2 to get those community values built into our strategic vision. Did I answer your question, ma'am? Great. We can go to the scope areas. So this slide is a busy slide. It represents all of the legacy cleanup scope. And part of this scope is my cleanup contractor N3B's work scope. There is a portion of this work scope that DOE manages directly. And I manage the budget and the work associated with that. If you look up there on the slide, about 40% of N3B scope is what's called environmental remediation projects. I'll explain that in a little bit. And the other 60% of the N3B scope is associated with the work that's necessary to store, process, and ship off-site the contact handled transuranic waste. The scope can change. As an example, in 2020, when as the Los Alamos County was developing Middle DP Road, they found a couple surprises, legacy surprises underground, and the EM field office was called in to clean up because it was legacy waste, and we've been working that for the last 3 years, and I'm just about to finish that work scope, but that's an example of how we can have surprises. So even when I create the strategic vision and we put it in place, there will always be the potential to change it if something unusual like that occurs, but at least I'll have a community informed grounds up basis to start from. And then I would expect to be able to engage with the community as those kinds of things come up, and where I can seek advice and get input, build from that. So let me go into a little bit of the detail about the individual projects behind here. Let me start with with the contact handled transuranic waste program. So beginning in the photo that in the upper left-hand corner, and I'm just gonna do this so that I don't keep looking up at the slides and telling, I would like to relate to what I'm talking to the pictures that you're seeing. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is what we call the corrugated metal pipe waste retrieval. This is a pretty exciting piece of work. The first time in decades that the Department of Energy has begun to exhume buried waste up on the mesa and process it for shipping outside the waste isolation pilot project. The corrugated metal pipes are 20 feet long. They're almost a yard wide in diameter. They're metal pipes filled with cemented radioactive waste with clean concrete plug sealing both ends of the metal tube. There are 158 of these total buried in a pit up on the mesa in Area G. And I'll give you a little bit of insight as to where that is. They are currently being excavated, and that's what the first picture in the top row on the left illustrates. Let me speak to Pit 9. This project has not been started. It's the first of a series of the more ambitious legacy waste processing in Area G for transuranic waste. Pit 9 is a pit that has over 4,000 containers that are stored on an asphalt pad in a below grade pit. That's illustrated there in that picture. It shows it's a period picture showing the workers loading the containers into the asphalt based pit that's basically a big hole in the ground. This is located in the central portion of the mesa where Area G is located. Just to give you some context, there's nearly 3,900 metal drums, 191 fiberglass reinforced plywood boxes, and 6 other containers of different type. So it's a little bit of a mix of all kinds of things, and unsealing it is kind of like opening up a Christmas present or birthday present that you know what kind of went into it, but with the many decades that I've gone through, we'll be doing that as a very deliberate process to make sure we manage the hazards to protect the workers, the public, and the environment. Let me speak to trenches. We have 4 trenches that contain 710 containers within these trenches. The containers are organized in arrays of sealed concrete casks, as are shown in the lower left-hand row of photos that each of these concrete casks has the capacity to hold 2 30-gallon drums stacked one on top of each other in each of the casks. The next picture illustrates what are called shafts. These aren't started either. This is where waste is stored in vertical shafts that are buried 100 feet deep with corrugated metal pipes lined. These are corrugated metal pipes lined near the top of the surface. So these are basically vertical shafts 100 feet deep where a transuranic waste was loaded for disposal. Now there are 5 inside these shafts. There are 5 hot cell liners. That's the inside of the boxes where radioactive work is done and performed safely. There's 5 tritium packages, a single waste package referred to as the 17th canister. And do not ask me what that is. I haven't even been able to get it and figure that out, but it's called the 17th canister. And each object requires separate retrievals in order to be able to pull it out, process it, store it, and then ship it, characterize and ship it to the waste isolation pilot project. And the last picture on this slide depicts the above ground inventory. What isn't buried underground that I talked to in the previous slide, we do have an above ground inventory that we are currently processing. And after processing, we characterize it to make sure that it's meeting all the requirements the state has set and established to ship to WIPP. And then we ship it. So we have an above ground inventory of about 2,000, a little over 2,300 drums, containers. Some are 55-gallon drums, some are larger 85-gallon drums, some are 110-gallon drums. And then we have this thing called a standard waste box, which is a little taller than this table, but it's about the same footprint, maybe a little bit deeper than that. So in the day, the transuranic waste was stored in all kinds of containers and put into all these configurations that we're talking about. Let me speak to a little bit about the processing facilities. I mentioned part of our mission is storage and retrieval. We also process and then characterize before we characterize the waste for sending the material down to the southern part of the state. And we have three areas where we're doing the processing. First is Dome 231. In Dome 231, we do two operations. The first is what is called drill and drain. This is to where we, inside the 55-gallon drum, they have I'll call it a rubber, a thick plastic liner. We can actually open up the drum, pull that liner out. As we get ready to send the material to the waste isolation pilot project, if there's an excessive amount of liquids, that has to be removed. The drill and drain process allows us to pull the liner out, safely drill a hole in and vacuum out the water at the same time, and then reseal the liner and put it back in the drum, and it's now ready to be certified and shipped to WIP. We also have, in the upper right-hand picture on this slide, we have a glove bag operation that allows us to take, if in some of these containers, there are prohibited items such as aerosol cans are not allowed to be sent down to the waste isolation pilot project. If there's there's a number of different types of prohibited items that X-rays and the characterization process will identify. We can take it to this glove bag, open it up in safely inside containment, pull out all the materials, sort the bad stuff out, repackage then reseal the drum, and now it's ready to send to WIP, and we have the remaining material to dispose of either as a mixed or hazardous loadable waste. Dome 375. This is all these operations are done in what are called permacons. It's a metal structure larger than if you took probably if you took a semi-tractor trailer back end, stacked them on top of each other, put two more to the side, two more in front, two more to the other side to have a total of 8 stacked up. They're about that big. These permacons have engineered systems to ensure that we confine the radiological materials or any hazardous materials we work in there inside that location. And then these glove bags and drill and drains and things like that are done inside that. And this is the way we confine the material so that workers, public, and environment are protected throughout the process. In Dome 375, we're starting up a new operation. I mentioned the corrugated metal pipes. After we exhume those from the ground, those 20-foot containers are a little bit big to put on a truck and ship down to the southern part of the state. So what we do is we put them inside, and this is what is depicted here in the lower left-hand picture. We put them inside what is essentially an oversized nuclear cigar cutter, where we'll take this 20-foot pipe, feed it in 4 or 5 feet at a time, and a hydraulic press pushes the blade across the concrete and metal pipe and cuts into a smaller segment that fits into one of those standard waste boxes that I mentioned earlier. We put those in, we'll pack those up with these sectioned corrugated metal pipes and send them down to WIP. And now once they're characterized, they're ready for disposal to WIP. Last thing I want to speak to is building 412. And this is what some of the latter pictures are showing. This is where we sort, segregate, size, reduce, and repackage transuranic waste that isn't processed in the other facilities that I've talked about. Let me shift to the environmental remediation portion of the project. Next slide, if we could. So in our environmental remediation projects that are very, very high level, we have the technical area 21 decommissioning and deactivation project, which is pictured in the upper picture. We have aggregate areas, which is depicted in the lower left photo. These are basically soil sampling and soil remediation projects. And then finally, we have groundwater, which is depicted in the third photo to the right. And this is illustrating a worker with our chromium pump and treat. Oh. And while the picture comes up, I'll do my song and dance. And if you have a question while it comes up, now I very much appreciate the Mayor Pro Tem with questions, and I'm happy to take questions as we go through. I think this is the website, but not the slides. Great. And I would proceed to talk, but some of the pictures here really help you get an idea of the proximity and give you a little bit of a visual understanding of that. And this is, as we bring it up, this is a high level discussion. It would be a pleasure to come back and speak with the council at any time if you wanted to have some additional information, wanted to know a little bit more. I'm trying to provide you an overview. Yes, Mayor.
I just got back from the Waste Management Summit 2 weeks ago as a Phoenix and Energy Communities Alliance. They're planning in May to bring the Energy Communities Alliance in Hanford, Oak Ridge and such. They're going to be here in May. No, they're going to be here in August. I would really encourage maybe we sit down for a roundtable. One of the things with the Energy Communities Alliance, it's the government entities of all the surrounding areas that are obviously impacted by DOE and nuclear energy sites. Weeriba County, Santa Fe County don't participate. The city of Espanola hadn't participated in over a decade, actually. So I would recommend maybe we can formulate like a summit where we can bring these entities from Weeriba County, Santa Fe County, the city of Espanola, the tribes together. Santa Clara did actually send somebody this past year as well, because they're impacted, obviously, their ancestral homelands from the canyon and such. I would really encourage that for like a summit, maybe this summer. And I think that would really be important, especially for the stakeholders. Especially, we understand that nuclear energy plays a big role in the economic development of the whole area and the region. And ultimately, we understand that we see the dollars coming back, but we also want to protect and preserve our land for years to come as well. So we need to look at that for the cleanup efforts and aspect as well.
I would be, we made a note of that, and I'd be happy to help with that if we can. In fact, what you're saying is music to my ears, because that's exactly what I'm trying to accomplish in building a strategic vision, is to build a lot of what you're saying into how my field office does the cleanup mission up on the mesa. So let me.
And the senior advisor actually from EM was presenting at our meeting back 2 weeks ago. What's his name? Sean Kelly or something?
It would be, if it's the senior advisor for the Office of Environmental Management, that would be Ike White.
Yeah, he was there.
That's in fact, that's my leadership that I talked about, that I mentioned earlier, that I spoke to about building the strategic vision, and he's the one that endorsed it. So we
So I
look
think
forward.
that would be helpful when they come in August to reach out to them, because the next one's in Paducah, Kentucky, and then it comes to Los Angeles.
Okay. Be glad to help in any way. So if we can go to the next slide. So this is a map that depicts all of the projects that we have in the environmental remediation. And there's a lot on this slide, but I'd like to unpack it a little bit for you. So technical area 21 on the drawing, that's at the section that's at the very, very top of the map. The technical areas are listed in orange squares, like little orange comment boxes. Technical area 21 is closest to the city of Los Alamos, and that's where the D&D project, the deactivation decommissioning project I mentioned. In area 21, at the height of the operations at the National Lab, the technical area 21 contained 125 buildings. This area was the Manhattan Project and the Cold War era complex of buildings that housed the plutonium processing facilities at the lab before they evolved to where they are today. Okay, thank you. I have a pointer. So for those of you in the room, and of course it disappears on the screen. So that was a great idea. Thank you for the pointer, but if I'd be happy to point it out in a paper copy if I lose anybody in the audience or the members of the council tonight. There are in areas 21, as I mentioned, there were 125 buildings. There have been several characterization and remediation efforts completed to date. Almost all the buildings have been taken down to grade, although the slabs still remain. And there are some what we call aggregate areas. I'll explain those in a moment that still remain in the area. Inside technical area 21, we still need to decontaminate and demolish one remaining radiological liquid waste facility. We have all the radioactive or the industrial waste lines. This is basically the plumbing between all those buildings that were underground, so that when processes in one building had waste, it was piped underground to the wastewater, the radiological liquid waste facility. So we have to characterize and remove those waste lines. We'll be removing the slabs and the roadways down to earth and cleaning up any solid waste management units, areas of concern, any contamination that remain beneath the building, the slabs, the industrial waste lines, or otherwise noted on the surface. Aggregate areas, I mentioned that. They're not depicted on the map here because I would have a number, there would be so many dots on this map, it would look like my map broke out in measles. So these are, the aggregate areas are a roll-up of multiple solid waste management units, areas of concerns that are rolled up into what are called aggregate areas. So some aggregate areas may have as many as 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 sites that are pulled up into one area, aggregate area. And that's how under the consent order that we have with the state of New Mexico, we're organizing our cleanup into campaigns. And we focus on completing campaigns that address predefined aggregate areas. The cleanup process for aggregate areas is to get in where these known sites are, characterize what's there, determine the nature and extent, and remediate, clean up and leave nothing behind. And we're in various phases of cleanup of aggregate areas across the site. That I could spend an hour with you alone just walking through all the different aggregate areas and where we are in the process of cleaning up. As a plug for our external communications and our outreach, we are enhancing our website. I hope to be able to put a map similar to this on the website. The vision is to be able to have a map like that where you can see the different areas. You can bring a clicker or a pop-up on it and see which ones are in progress, which ones are complete, maybe the percentage complete, to be able to give the community a little bit more of an understanding of where we are in the progress that we're making. We're building that, and we started that this year. I'd like to speak a little bit about groundwater. We have two contaminated plumes in the aquifer below the National Lab. One is called the RDX plume. That's Royal Demolition Explosives plume. It's a chemical that came from the use of high explosives, and the contamination made its way down to the groundwater. And that's a plume that my field office will have to clean. Another one that you may have already heard, and much more significant and more near-term issue to be dealt with, which is a chromium-6, hexavalent chromium. If any of you have watched Love Canal or heard about Love Canal, chromium-6 is a carcinogen that has all types of toxic and carcinogenic effects. That's a bad thing to let on the environment, but this chemical was used at the National Lab for treating steam systems before it was understood that the chemicals that had a very toxic nature if released into the environment. Unfortunately, the lab let loose about 160,000 pounds. About 16,000 of it is in the aquifer, and it's in a plume that we are containing and moving forward to cleaning up. I'd like to talk a little bit about material disposal areas. Before the current environmental regulations and rules were defined, the lab, as they developed waste in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, would package it in many of the pictures that I showed you on the transuranic, but with low-level waste as well. And the Department of Energy or its predecessor agency would dig out holes and trenches. These were called material disposal areas, and the waste was placed usually in areas that were carved out of the tuff, the stone that makes the mesa, in place within there, and then covered with soil to be dealt with sometime in the future. There are a number of material disposal areas. They're all depicted in the blue comment boxes here, kind of showing which areas of the sites they're located in. And just a couple fun facts may not be the term I'd want to necessarily use, but for how close are these to the city of Espanola? Material disposal areas Alpha and Tango, located in technical area 21, are about 16 miles from Espanola. Material disposal C, which is more towards the center upper part of the map in blue, that one's about 17 miles from Espanola. I've depicted here material disposal areas G, H, and L in area 54. That's where area G is. Those are about 16 miles from Espanola. And finally, I have a material disposal AB in technical area 49 of the southern part of the National Lab, and that's about 19 miles from Espanola. A little bit of a linear distance, but I would hope that the contaminants that we have there, the cleanup mission, the efforts that we're gonna undertake to clean up the legacy waste would be of interest to the council and the members of your community. And that's why we're reaching out to here for the strategic vision to be able to get your input to that. Let me move to slide 13. So some complexities or things to consider as you consider all the projects that that I described. I've listed on this slide, not an all-inclusive list of complicating factors, risks, challenges that apply to all the projects I described. And I think I'd just like to call two of them out to you that I think would be of significant interest to the residents of Espanola. The first is worker safety. Many members of your community work at the site, and it's my job to make sure that we send them home in the same state and same condition that they arrived to work that day. So some of this work is we're dealing with hazardous materials, not just radioactive materials, but things that are controlled under the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, RCRA materials, as it's often referred to. So doing this work, exhuming the material disposal areas, the aggregate areas, dealing with the pump and treat of the chromium plume, all of them deal with hazards that we need to assure that the workers that come up and are accomplishing our mission remain safe and go home to their families in the same condition they arrived. The last one is at the bottom, I'd like to talk a little bit about, which is traffic and transportation, both the nuisance and the injuries that can accompany with increased traffic in order to do the mission, depending upon how it's done. The assumptions that I inherited under the current cleanup plan included a cap and cover to all the material disposal areas. In some cases, that might make sense. One of the material disposal areas has high explosives in it. Digging out a 20-foot trench or pit with high explosives, probably not very safe for the workers. That might be a candidate for a cap and cover, but there were some other material disposal areas that it might make sense to do complete exhumation or a target retrieval of the most hazardous materials. But as you dig up, the more materials that you dig up, the larger, the more trucks that'll be coming up and down the mesa, bringing dirt and things up and down the mesa. And that's something to consider in the values, the priorities, and the things that are important to the community. Let me move to the next slide. In the last 20 minutes or so, I've given you a high-level overview of the information that would be provided in a phase one session. That's the scope of the work and some of what it takes to get it done. I'd like to give you a little glimpse into, so what should you expect in the phase two process of this? In phase two, we have 4 to 5 facilitators at separate tables. This is what is, if you Google it, a World Cafe approach, where we ask participants to move from table to tables of their choosing, where there are facilitators, and each table gets about 20 minutes to provide feedback on questions related to what was discussed in phase one. Collectively, after each participant has had an opportunity to sit at each table, we come together to discuss the common themes in the conversation. And all of the feedback that is provided at each of the tables in the World Cafe is recorded for putting into the model that I mentioned that goes into phase three. This takes about 2 to 3 hours. It depends upon the collective portion and how many additional questions it takes and what the participants might bring to the table. But we target it for about 2 to 3 hours in a 20-minute session. We keep the number of participants low relative to the facilitators, because if you bring 10 people around one facilitator, not a lot of conversation happens from each person. You keep it about 2 to 3, and every participant gets a substantive discussion with the facilitator. And so far, we've done many of these engagements so far, and it's been the participants have been giving us a lot of positive feedback, and we're gathering a lot of information through that process. Let me move to slide 15. If you would, Kelly. I don't know if Emma has the control. This slide, this is a table that contains a general listing of the regulatory requirements that we have to comply with. The National Environmental Protection Act, DOE orders, local, state, or other federal regulations. The takeaway from here is just to give you a very high level view of the regulatory framework that my field office and my cleanup contractor operate within. We're best able to, given all of this information, what I would like you to understand that one of the reasons we're doing the strategic vision is that we're better able to communicate with our regulators when the work that we're doing builds in a lot of the feedback that the communities share with us. Next slide. Earlier, provided you with a quick snapshot of the scope that we had, the different contact handle transuranic waste pieces of scope and the ER program. I wanted to flash that back up again and give you a little bit of a sense of, so how much is the federal government bringing to the Los Alamos area for the cleanup? In FY 22, my field office was plussed up from $226 million to $292 million. My cleanup contractor N3B gets about 236 million of that. And I say about because it'll vary from year to year, depending upon the delta between the two of them is DOE managed funds for things that work scope that the Department of Energy, the Environmental Management Field Office directly manages. We've got some waste down in Texas at the WCS. We've got other things that portions of the cleanup work that we manage directly rather than passing that through our contractor, which would just increase the costs. So quite a bit of money coming into the field office to accomplish our work. So if I can go to the last slide, I'd like to kind of summarize, and any remaining time, I am here to answer any questions at your convenience. I spoke to the purpose of the strategic vision, which is to develop a long-term vision from the ground up of the remaining legacy waste cleanup that's based on a consensus values and priorities from stakeholders, pueblos, non-governmental organizations, elected officials, regulators in northern New Mexico. And we are encouraging participation from all of these diverse groups to ensure a broad view for the strategic vision development. And as I mentioned in earlier slides, the engagement sessions for phase 1 and 2 are approximately 2 to 3 hours each and can be tailored to the community, the non-governmental organization that we're engaging with. These sessions represent an opportunity to voice your values and priorities as they relate to the remaining cleanup scope. And what do I mean by values and priorities? Values are the individual beliefs that motivate people to act one way or the other. Priorities, these represent what are most important to you. You know, for example, clean up some of the priorities might be clean up the highest risk sites to the people first, or clean up sites that could be transferred and used for economic development, clean up sites for near residents. I'm not trying to say these are the values that you should have. I'm just giving you some examples of what values could be. The values that I'm seeking to get are really, I expect to be unique to each community, each group that we are trying to engage with. The city of Espanola is an important stakeholder given the proximity to Los Alamos. And in 2021, I mentioned earlier that EMLA was mentioned as was named a pilot program for the President's Justice 40 initiative. And Justice 40 is a whole of government effort to deliver at least 40% of the overall benefits from certain federal investments, namely in my case, the legacy waste cleanup mission, to ensure that at least 40% of those benefits are delivered to disadvantaged communities. And through our engagement for Justice 40, I heard a question over and over again. So what are you going to do differently? People are hungry for environmental justice, and Justice 40 and environmental justice are related, but a little bit different. But when we engage in listening sessions for environmental justice, we're frequently asked, so what are you going to do differently? The strategic vision is one example of what are we going to do differently. I told you I recognized in the beginning of this that I recognized an opportunity early on in my arrival here to build a strategic vision. The how we would do that came out of what I heard from engaging with different groups and listening sessions as the government is preparing to roll out the government-wide guidance on how to implement Justice 40. But the building a strategic vision from the ground up with the community values, priorities, and objectives built into it is a way to provide something different and deliver environmental justice as we do our cleanup mission. So your feedback, I hope, is that residents of the city of Espanola, the council will choose to want to participate in a strategic vision because your feedback is unique and valuable. We have many different perspectives to share and learn about. And I hope that you'll consider participating in the process. And if anybody would like to hear more about before committing and possibly attend, I'd be happy to share more about the process in a future session. I don't have the websites on here, but for some additional information, this is where I get to do my www. For more information, you can see the website www.energy.gov/EMLA/strategic/vision-development. Or if you have questions, we had the website up on the screen earlier. You can contact us via email at emlastrategicvision@em.voe.gov. And with that, and it's also on my project manager right next to us just pointed out that the email address is on the back of the cards that we passed out today with the 4 different phases. And as much as time as the council wants to allot, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have from this. And I thank you again for the time and the opportunity to present tonight.
Peggy Sue Martinez.
Thank you, both for the presentation, and sorry about the technical difficulties in trying to move the screens, but I appreciate also having a packet before me so that I can follow along. I'm very interested in our community having as much input as possible in this initiative. I feel like it's very important that we're at the table when this gets remediated. I did have a question concerning whether or not any testing was going to be done on grounds outside of Los Alamos. Even in our community, just because when fire burned in Los Alamos, there were ash spewing throughout this community. So I'm curious to know if any other things have landed here or contaminated our ground or anything else. I also would recommend, Mayor, that the city of Espanola post this email address and some information to possibly as a link on our webpage so that our citizens can have an opportunity to connect with you guys via our own webpage. And like I said, I'm very interested in moving forward with this. And I appreciate, Mayor, that you had an idea to sit everyone down here in our community. And I think that's important also.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you for joining us this evening. Is there any other counselor comments? Okay, well, we're going to definitely be in touch. We will get through the clerk's office. We'll get you contact numbers for Los Alamos County, Santa Fe counties, and Riva County just hired someone, their little economic development liaison individuals. And I think that'd be really important for you. Santa Clara has been having a vocal seat at the table for the Energy Communities Alliance. And so I think that they'll be also engaged as well. And I was going over this in the back when you talk about stakeholders. Jemez, Santa Ana, those pueblos as well, but Oquia-Winga also receives a lot of the watershed from the canyons as well. Yeah, Cochiti and Santa Ana, of course, yes. But yeah, I would include Oquia-Winga.
Yes, Mayor, we are currently doing consultation with all 4 core pueblos, which includes Cochiti, Jemez, Santa Clara, and San Ildefonso. We hadn't reached out or included Oquia-Winga, but you make a good point, and I'll take that back with me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Sorry, may I say one more thing?
No, thanks. Oh,
Sorry, I have extra cards for anyone who would like to have one, just so you can take a look at this, and then there's contact information on the back as well. So feel free to reach out to me on this.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
advertising.
A lot of materials, possibly leave from the water department where people pay their bill, they might be interested in that.
Thank you.
thank you all. Moving on to public comments. Public comment is 3 minutes this evening. Ms. Garcia.
Danny Pacheco.
Mr. Pacheco, would you please come on up and this is for roll for all public comment. Indicate your name, first and last name, and your physical address, and if you live in the city of Espanola as per.
Good morning. Good afternoon, governing body and mayor. My name is Danny Anthony Pacheco. I live on 105 Apple Street out of the city of Espanola. I'm here tonight to talk to, I wish the chief was here instead of being on his phone like he's been all night. I wish he would be here and listening to what I have to say because this is about his department. Everybody knows that I have been with law enforcement for over 35 years, 17 of that with the Espanola Police Department. We are not getting the safety and the protection that this city needs. On January 16th at Zia Estates, somebody shot a round through my stepson's trailer. That's a priority 1 call. That should be the first call and drop everything else and get up there. But it didn't happen. It took over an hour for Espanola PD to respond. Only one person that responded had the courtesy to talk to my grandkids like human beings. The other one treated my wife like if she was a piece of trash, that she didn't know what she was talking about. Trust me, she knows. She's been in law enforcement a lot of years too. You know, if they're doing that to us, and I called and I tried to get a hold of chief, he never returned my call. All I ever see him doing is sitting on his phone, both phones, and never offer them. He should be paying attention as to what's going on in his community. Mayor, you and the chief went to the governor requesting for state police assistance. And we probably need it. I'm not saying we don't. Everybody needs it. We're short-staffed everywhere in this world. But right now, to be honest with you, state police doesn't have the manpower. We don't have the manpower to be able to do it. And I'm talking about any law enforcement agency here in the Valley. I know that Rio Arriba is struggling for men. State police is struggling for men. Espanola is. You know, chief, you're hiring people that aren't even qualified to be law enforcement officers. I know them. Trust me. They haven't even been in the academy. They don't know how to treat people right. Half of your department lives out of the area, not in the area. You don't even drive a marked unit. You drive a 300 with regular plates. That's not a unit. The state law states that you have to be in a marked unit at all times if you're in unit, in a uniform. Chief's uniform is that, plain clothes. Yes, I understand that. But he's an officer too. He's commissioned officer and a certified officer. He should be in a unit. You know, we're not getting the safety that we need. I know, Mayor, you're watching the clock, and I know you did that to me the last time. But you know what? I'm going to tell you one thing. You told me when you came to me, you and other councilmen to ask for my help to get you elected. And I came up forth because I believe in you. I do, and I still believe in you today.
Thank you, Danny. Your time is up.
And I believe in you today, sir. But the thing you said that you were going to be, one thing that you both, and everybody said that you wanted to be is transparent. You're not transparent, boss. He's claiming 31 officers. I know that's not true. I want a list of all the officers that are here in this department. That's not against the law. That's public record. I think I have the right to know. I think the community has the right to know who's out there. I know I already talked to some of his departments. You have 2 to 3 officers on duty. And they walk around, driving around because they're scared. They don't leave each other. I know when we were there, even when we had 3 officers on duty, we broke it up in divisions, west side, south side, north side. And then they had to divide the east side. So it can be done, but there is no accountability in this department whatsoever. No accountability, and they're not doing their job. You can go out there and sit, and I just told you the last time I came out here, go with me, go sit out there in the road. See how many times you see Espanola PD driving around. You don't. Where are they? At the office, parked somewhere else, talking to girls. You know, they're not doing their jobs. Chief, we're not Albuquerque PD. You need to get out there and see what your department's doing. Quit talking about what New York's doing. We don't give a crap what's going on in New York. We know what's going on in Espanola. The other thing is, you know what, Chief, I've seen you work. I was in your office when the county commissioner was there. You stayed on your phone. Totally disrespect to another agency. That is total disrespect. I don't talk just to talk. I know what I'm talking about. Like I say, I have 35 years in law enforcement, 10 years of it has been as the chief of police. You know, I will fight for the city of Espanola until the day I die. I'm going to live in this valley. And I hope to God to die in this valley. But I'm gonna be here for the people for 100%. I'm not gonna say names, but two of you that are in here tonight went through crap in the last administration. And you guys didn't deserve that one bit. You're a lot better than that. And you stuck up and you stayed there. And you promised that would never happen, but it's happening today. Mayor, I know you got a lot of things to do, and I know you guys have a lot of stuff, but it has to be said. I want to know how many officers Espanola PD really has. And I want to know what they're doing, because I can tell you right now, they're not patrolling. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to uphold the laws of the city of Espanola and the Constitution of New Mexico and the United States. They're not doing that. They disrespect me. I try to talk to some of them and they turn around and tell me, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, apparently they don't know who I am.
Thank you, Mr. Pacheco. Because I allowed Mr. Pacheco to speak, I'm gonna give him an extra, there'll be, everyone that's allowed to speak that signed up this evening will have 5 minutes to speak this evening. Ms. Garcia.
Bethany Bradley,
Good evening, City Council. I'm going to touch base on a few things that I discussed at the safety meeting. Unfortunately, guess what happened that following Monday? Somebody was shot 5 times diagonally away from my trailer. 7 people were apparently arrested. Anybody who knows I come from Inglewood, Chicago. I'm used to gunfire, but when this bothers me. When I moved here, I was told this was a beautiful city. I have no idea what happened. I'm scared to sleep at night. I've said it numerous times and people in here are new, but I live in Cook's Trailer Park and not every one of us is a scumbag. Some of us work hard. Some of us work hard for this community. I not only work out I came here to work with the shelter and work with animals, and everybody knows my passion is there. I have helped this community. I get phone calls daily. I have council members that have given out my personal phone number, and I don't care. Call me. I'll try my hardest to get you help with your pets. I've picked animals up off the road, and I've asked about that, as a matter of fact, why I'm picking them up. And when I call, the dispatch is telling me that they can't pick it up and animal control doesn't pick them up. And I'm going, then who does? Me. If you've seen my truck in the middle of the road, you know what I'm doing. I'm picking up another dead one. I'm tired of it, but that's me. Secondly, I know I brought this up before and I need to bring it up because I'm a little confused as that nice gentleman who is here. I drive to Airport Road and 355. It's where my office is, right by Tractor Supply. I literally was behind three, not just one, but 3 Espanola police cars, the whole drive through Pewaukee, through Tesuque, all the way past Airport Road. They should not be bringing their vehicles home. They should be driving their own personal vehicles. That's my tax money that's paying their gas. Not cool. You know, we have better things we could spend our tax dollars on, like a second animal control officer that I've been asking for a while. We've got money to spend all over the place. But an ACO part-time working on Saturdays and Sundays while you have a full-time ACO would be fantastic. I'm getting tired of asking for that. I think we as a community deserve that. Like the dog that jumped some lady's fence. I had to go over there on a weekend to help her get this other dog out of her yard because she was scared. But guess what? No cops showed up. No ACO is on duty on weekends to help her at 2 PM. I have to leave my house on my day off. Is that fair to me? No, but guess what? I'm here to help the community and help. There was an option. Her son was gonna come and shoot the dog. The dog was nice, but the woman was scared, and I don't blame him. Put the dog in my car, took the dog to the shelter, got picked up the next day by its owners. It's really not a difficult job. I don't get paid to do it, but I do it. When I called the police station asking who picks up strays, oh, we don't. Well, if he's nice, you can put him in your car, but you at least have protection in your vehicle. So if the dog starts to get aggressive or too nervous, you have a way to protect yourself while that dog's behind you. I don't. My vehicle doesn't have that. Not fair. I'm tired of having to deal with animals because you can't do a second ACO, and having to worry about ducking down in my house because of gunfire. Literally that following Monday after that meeting.
Thank you, Brett. And the last one, Mayor, is Stephen. And for the record, Stephen, because our stenographer is not here, she's going to be recording and doing our minutes from YouTube, from our Zoom. So I do need your address and phone number for the record.
For the record, I'm gonna just say. United States, I'm not entitled to give my address. I can just pull my name down. I don't have to give my phone number. You can put that on the record. Good evening, y'all. We had a very exciting time back on January 10th, the last time I was here. It's pretty peachy, got some stuff going on. Let's go besides the point here. Okay. Peggy Sue Martinez, I believe you're in charge of the Public Safety Committee. I heard on your YouTube channel, I didn't even know you guys had a YouTube channel. That you want to target citizens for traffic infractions, because in the month of January, there's a total of 29 citations, not enough money revenue to bring into the city of 29 citations. I might be off. If they're driving safe and they're doing what they're supposed to do, I don't feel that the law enforcement should be targeting people that aren't breaking the law. Law enforcement goes after people that break the law. That's what their job is to uphold the law and uphold the Constitution of the United States. John Ramon, you're very disrespectful. The same smirks that you're doing now is the same kind of smirks you're giving this gentleman as a presentation. You're on camera on YouTube, people seeing it. I have video here recording you smirking, smiling. Well, this gentleman here was giving a presentation. That's not very respectful. You guys want all the respect because you guys sit on a little governing body that these citizens of Espanola elected you to sit on. If it wasn't for these citizens of Espanola to vote for you to be on those things, you guys wouldn't be here. You want respect, you give respect. That's how respect is given. You don't earn it. It's not a right. Now let's go into the homeless situation. You guys made an ordinance of solicitation. You guys are targeting the homeless. You guys can deny it. The chief stated that there's not going to be no homeless or anything like that, whatever the case might be. We're not targeting them or anything. But you guys are going into private businesses
targeting these people, you're giving them criminal trespass or they can't be on this property. The way trespass works is the owner of the property, the management of the property, an employee of the property has to give a warning to those individuals first. If there's a warning given, then they can't be back on that property. The law enforcement can't just go and arrest people because they feel like they have the power to do it because they're criminal trespass. It's like if I went to John Ramon's property and we were hanging out and we're talking out in his yard, all of a sudden law enforcement comes up and sees a no trespassing sign, but I'm with John Ramon talking to him on his property, I'll get arrested because of there's a trespass sign. That's not how trespass works. It feels that you guys made this whole ordinance up to target the homeless. You can hide it and deny it. And which is wrong, which is not correct. But I am gonna fight that ordinance. I am gonna take that chance to fight that ordinance. Another thing, when did you guys put that sign that's over there on that little pork chop that's considered a public forum by Walmart that's stating that there's no loitering or anything like that, and it's just Espanol statute of an ordinance or something? That's in violation. You can't put up, if that's the case, you should put an ordinance out through the whole entire sidewalk of the whole city of Espanola. If you're gonna put a loitering sign just because there's a little median there, and people stand there, that's not right. We can't pinpoint and pick what side you want to put an ordinance, which foot you want to put a sign on. That's not how it works. You have to be equal with everything. So I think that sign is invalid because that sign should have never been put up there. If that's the case, you should put street signs throughout the whole entire sidewalk and put no loitering throughout the whole entire sidewalk. Anybody can use the sidewalk to go up and down, up and down, up and down the sidewalk, and that's it. But other than that, is there gonna be like a report or a meeting, or are we gonna get some kind of information? Is the public gonna get some kind of information of what actually happened at the Santa Clara Apartments? Are we gonna get anything like that? Because Council Member Manuel Martinez asked for a report to bring it to us. Are we gonna get?
Thank you,
that?
Stephen. Your time is up.
Right. Any other public comments? Ms. Garcia?
Nothing, sir.
Counselor comments? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Thank you for indulging me, Mayor. First of all, city manager, myself and John from Solid Waste attended a board meeting at North Central. Was a specially scheduled meeting that was specific to engaging North Central in arbitration with the city of Espanola. That was passed, so the city of Espanola is now going to be entering into an arbitration with North Central Waste Authority to discuss the bill that we don't believe we owe and other matters. I'll get back to the council with a full report on how that goes. I did attend a 911 board meeting along with Chief Michel Garcia this morning. We had good news in that we have 2 employees that are now state certified. We also had one of the young ladies was able to be the class leader, and that's very important for this community because the last time that they had police and fire training, the officer from Espanola, Pablo Manzanares, was the class valedictorian. So Espanola continues to lead in those areas at the state level. It's very important. The 2 young ladies that graduated from 911 certification are Angelica Lujan and Diamond Pedraza. They both will be employed here at the 911 center. The 911 center is also looking to the state's establishment of the next gen 911 and the importance of next gen 911 to the community and to the constituency is that it will allow for text messaging to and from a 911 operator At this time, the city of Espanola and Rio Arriba E911 has capability of videoing things and being able to send a caller that cannot stay on the line. They can send them a text to open up a video link so that the operator can see visually what's happening, where the crime is taking place or where the emergency is happening. We do currently have that capability, but we do not have text capability as of yet. So this next gen 911 that the state is considering funding will provide for that to happen. Am I on a timer? I thought I was on a timer. And other than that, you know, just thank the staff, of course. You guys always do an incredible job with everything that's going on. I mean, you guys are just amazing. City Hall's back to normal somewhat. The floors are replaced, the flooded sheetrock is replaced, and everybody has their nicely new painted office, and it's good to be back to normal to some extent. So just thank everybody for the work that they do, streets, trash specifically. What an incredible job that staff is doing. Everywhere I go, I receive positive feedback from the job that they're doing. Public safety. I'd like an update also on what's going on with the swimming pool at Lucero Center when you get an opportunity. That's another thing that people regularly ask me about. So just thank you to the staff and to everybody for doing their job. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other counselors? All right. Did you know? Okay. I wanted to invite everyone to Espanola Day. It's happening tomorrow, March 15th. Festivities start at 8 o'clock in the morning and it'll go till 3. Entertainment will begin at 10 o'clock. I really want to commend the work of the planning committee that worked so hard. It's Christine Bustos, Mr. Peter Valdez, Joanne Salazar, Miss Debbie Garcia, did mention Mr. Peter Valdez, Miss Greta Trujillo. They've worked so hard on this. They've assembled some nice packages for our legislators. We've worked really hard to handle a good entertainment that represents and recognizes our beautiful valley. There'll be lowriders tomorrow. There'll be representation from both tribes. There'll be buffalo dancers from San Juan and Okewinge, forgive me, Pueblo, hoop dancing from Santa Clara Pueblo, as well as Pueblo leadership as well to give talks. So we really invite the public to join us tomorrow. Bizcochitos from Love and Oven should be delicious. The staff has worked so hard to put this event together to showcase our valley to the rest of the state. So many organizations are participating. We actually gave away all of our table spots and we had an overflow list. And so there was some people that weren't even able to get on to be a table participant this year. So I just really want to thank the staff for all they've done. I really want to go back on, there was a comment made about our take-home policies and such. And so I really want to actually defend that. Our take-home policy was adopted in 2019 and Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez and Councilor Vigil, that's me at the time, we were adamantly against the take-home policy going to be 80 miles. And that was to include for specific officers to compute, and it wasn't actually officers, it was leadership that was commuting from Rio Rancho. You know, when that was brought to the council for approval, there was no question of what was the fiscal impact and such to that. Councilor Martinez and myself, we were adamantly against that. We asked for a fiscal report. We never got it. That policy was adopted. And mainly that policy, I look at the positive of that policy is it's a recruiting tool. I want to look around the room and actually thank the officers that we do have that work for the city of Espanola. We don't have officers that work here in the city of Espanola per se that are from Espanola. That's just a factor of today's workforce, ladies and gentlemen. You know, Councilor Aaron Salazar, he's worked at the gas company for 30 years. People are not wanting to work right now. And so that's actually something I wanted to talk about later on in the agenda for me is return to work legislation. Return to work legislation will allow essentially double dipping. An employee retired from state, municipal, county governments can return back to the workforce if they've been out a whole entire year for up to 3 years from their date of retirement. It passed the House day before yesterday. It should be seen by a Senate committee forgive me, it was seen by the Senate, passed the Senate, it's going to House Finance Committee. It went to Finance Committee today. I don't know an update. I believe and I'm hopeful that the city of Espanola can be a good recipient of this because we can possibly staff our entire police department at that aspect. One of the greatest sins in this valley is us being so close to Los Alamos and Santa Fe actually hurts us in our retaining of workforce. Our community is a consistent training pool for police, fire, public works employees. We train all these employees. They work for us for up to maybe possibly a year, and then they go work at Los Alamos County, the city of Santa Fe, the county of Santa Fe, or they go to Los Alamos National Labs and make double, if not triple the wages that they make here at the city of Espanola. It's so hard to staff an entire police department. There's been no secret. There's 31 budgeted positions, but there's 26 officers, correct, Chief? There's been no secret about that, ladies and gentlemen. If you know people that would like to be a police officer, there's been vacancies for months. We have multiple vacancies here at the city of Espanola that still have yet to be filled. And it's not just here in Espanola. This is a national trend across the country where individuals are just either looking at the private entities and such. And so we're hopeful with return to work legislation, that can be the boost back into the public sector so we can get our departments fully staffed again. And the biggest need is for public safety, but of course that goes to every department at the city, like public works, water, wastewater, community services. We have a community services director position. It's been open now. On Friday, it'll be an entire month it's been vacant. Another example, it's a director position, pay $60,000. You can go be a director in Santa Fe County sometimes for $80,000 to $90,000. So a lot of people like to throw rocks, but they don't talk about the ultimate goal and what we see, and it's recognizing the employees that work so hard with what little they do have for the city of Espanola. And I really want to commend all of them for what they do and the sacrifices that they make. Sacrifices that they make working here for us because they could work at other employers for a lot more money. I'll stand for any comments from the governing body on that, Mayor Pro Tem.
First of all, we're one vote away from return to work, correct?
Yes. And it does have the support of the governor's office. So if it makes it through the House by Friday and such, it'll get signed into legislation. By July 1st, we'll be able to implement return to work. And that's return to work will impact any employee that's been out an entire year for up to 3 years. And that's for all positions, administrative support, managerial, police, public safety, all positions.
Okay,
And the city of Espanola has taken an aggressive stance where the lobbyist has been pushing it.
very important. I feel that our police department in particular has had a difficult time in retaining quality officers and being competitive with the way that things are around us, with people going up constantly on their wages, and the city of Espanola trying to compete with that to the best of our own ability and at the same time stay true to the budgets. So that's very exciting, Mayor, that's a possibility for us. And I do believe that will solve one of the big woes we have in this community with our positions staying vacant so long. I want to touch base on also the gentleman's concern about the 29 citation situation that did come before public safety. It was mentioned, there was some conversation based on those 29 citations. I put a stop to the conversation and I said, it would be illegal for us to mandate that the police department do any type of numbers, period. So I'm going to stop this conversation right here. I just want to make that clear. Anybody can check the video, it's online. I stopped that conversation because I didn't feel that having a quota for the police department is right and fair to the public. So for somebody to say that I talked about the 29 citations and felt that we should be stopping people. Of course, I want anybody who's speeding in Espanola to be stopped. Of course, I want anybody that's DUI to be stopped. Of course, I want our officers to get to a crime as soon as possible. Those are all natural things for anybody to want, but we'll never mandate the numbers to the chief or to his department. It's your department, sir. You run it as you see fit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor Salazar. Right. Well, thank you all again for the listening audience. It's on Cadiz as well. Please join us tomorrow for Espanola Day. We've worked really hard and we hope you can be a participant in our great activities and such. And I just wanted to go a little bit further again and commend our employees. Municipal League released a survey earlier this month. The city of Espanola actually pays its employees quite well compared to cities of our size. We pay our officers $26 for patrolmen. That's actually significantly higher than other municipalities. The problem is they're not by Los Alamos and Santa Fe. Compared to Las Vegas, which is a relatively sized community as Espanola, we pay significantly more than Las Vegas for public works, all those employees. So again, thank you for what you do for our community. We're appreciative and grateful for you. Thank you to all our public safety officers and our clerical staff as well. Thank you, Mr. Yetsey.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'll make this short and sweet. Tomorrow, Espanola Day, the city hall will be closed, planning and land use office will be closed. The Lucerno Center and the seniors building will be closed. The initial plan was for the Lucerno Center and seniors building employees to go down to Espanola Day, but that morning is the actual funeral service for the employees, so they are going to attend that instead. We have hired a planning director. She is set to start, I believe, May 3rd right now is her date. We're trying to get it moved forward a little bit. She is trying to finish up some current projects she has with her current job that she wants to get further along before she leaves. But right now her tentative start date is no later than May 3rd. We have done some restructuring into an order of trying to do more with less. So with that being said, Elijah is now over streets, vehicle services and parks. And Jeff is going to take more of a project management role into these larger projects to help us get them pushed along and going. We have a lot of projects that have slipped through the cracks on some items. And so this way he will take more of a lead role in getting those pushed through and done. I have interviews Friday for the 3 bids we received for the engineers and architects for the City Hall Cultural Heritage Museum. So next meeting, y'all will get a bid recommendation along with an overall score sheet of those 3 interviews for y'all to award the contract to, or tell us to go back out for rebid. The water rights litigation mediation is going along. At the next meeting on the 28th. Y'all will have an executive session at the beginning of the meeting to meet with those attorneys and experts before kind of get an update of where we are. The Pueblo has requested a meeting with y'all on the 29th. We'll be sending out an invite. It will be up at their government offices, but we will have to post a notice of quorum, but it will not be a City of Espanola council meeting. It will just be a possible notice of quorum with no action taken regarding city business. The PD move is on scheduled to be the 1st of April. We have, the only thing left we have over there is the final fiber connection. They're supposed to come this week and finish that up. Everything else has been run. There will be a finance committee meeting next Tuesday to allow the finance committee to meet. Rob has gotten a lot of information up and wants to take it to the finance committee. That's yes, finance committee. The new audit has started. The state auditor has accepted our contract and they have started uploading stuff for the new auditor. They're still on schedule to have the audit completed and approved from the state by May 1st. The Lucerno pool, the city staff actually came together and saved the city quite a bit of money. The water department installed the new pump. They got the pump installed. During the pump install, there was an incident where some pipes got broken, not from our water department staff, from another incident. They had to order the parts to get those fixed. There was a couple flanges. I believe those are in and they should be fixed anytime now. So when probably on Thursday, we're looking at the pool being reopened.
Just curious how the inspection went on the water situation.
Tomorrow.
It's tomorrow.
As soon as I get an update from Bryce, I will let you know.
Just want to clarify too, to the listening audience as well, public safety will not be impacted tomorrow. Public safety will be as scheduled. The only people that are going to Santa Fe is the chiefs of the fire and police department. Police department will be open, fire department will be, they're not participating. Moving on, we're gonna do items proposed for council consideration, discussion items and action items. First off for tonight is facilities use agreement, show and shine 2023. Mr. Isaac Romero, I don't see him here this evening, so Mr. Yetsey.
With Dora and them being off tonight thing, I would make a recommendation that if we can table this, let's table it to the 20th meeting. Do we need it before the 20th?
I know about this.
Okay.
I know enough about Isaac's situation, so he's come back to the city of Espanola as he does every year. As most of you know, he provides the city of Espanola with the show and shine show once a month down at the convento. His agreement has always been the same. It's just co-sponsorship. Provided that the city of Espanola open up the restrooms for that day. And he provides that show to the city of Espanola at no cost. I believe this is important because I feel like it is one of the draws for the city of Espanola is lowriders. And there's been times when I've seen people at Parasol or other places in town that have come in specifically in search of something like that, and they haven't been able to find one, or they find maybe one or two on the streets and are a little bit disappointed. So I feel like what Mr. Romero is providing to the city of Espanola is very important, and he does it very well and does a really nice, clean show, and also showcases a lot of very classic vehicles and just nice stuff that he has going on there. So I would recommend that we go ahead with it, if you don't mind.
I mean,
Mayor Pro Tem or Mayor.
Councilor Nanette Rodriguez.
So, Show and Shine came before the community services on 2/27, and we agreed as a committee to bring it to full council. We were all in agreement with the facilities use agreement. And also the facilities use agreement for the Lowrider Association also came before the committee on the same date. And that was also approved through committee.
I'll motion to approve if you're okay with it, Mayor.
Motion, I'm perfectly fine if the staff has gone through this already and.
I did not hear anything negative from staff. I know that Dora had planned to be here, and then the untimely death yesterday stopped her.
We have a motion to approve the facilities use agreement for Show and Shine 2023 for Mr. Isaac Romero. Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez. Second by Councilor Aaron Salazar. Any discussion?
Under discussion, Mayor, just reiterating the value of what somebody is personally doing for the community and how important it is that we continue to support these initiatives.
Thank you. Any other comments? Ms. Garcia, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor?
Councilors Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion, I also had previously made a motion to approve via chat to this, just stating that I am full support of this and the many years that Mr. Romero has done this. It's a great service to the community. Thank you.
Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion, and I too just want to thank Isaac for all that he does by putting this show and shine throughout the summer for the years that he's done it. And I think we must continue to support individuals, especially when they're willing to put this effort and work into such projects as the show and shine. Thank you.
Dorothy D. Valdez,
For the motion.
Aaron J. Salazar,
In favor.
Nanette D. Rodriguez,
For the motion.
motion carries.
I just want to thank Mr. Isaac for what he does and the activities that he plans and his part. And he's been doing this for quite some time. So thank you, Mr. Isaac Romero, for what you do for our valley. Moving on, facilities use agreement, Espanola Lowrider Association, co-sponsorship with the city of Espanola. Mr. Jordan Yetsey.
Yes, Mayor, this is another one that went in front of the Community Services Committee. It was approved unanimously on this. I did not have any objection from staff on any part of this.
Did you guys want to present, Joanne?
Good evening, Mayor John Ramon and governing body. We want to thank you all for allowing us to do it again and bringing it back. We're just so excited. It is the 4th weekend of July, which will be on the 22nd. From 1 to 6 p.m. We invite all lowriders, classics, and motorcycles to attend. We also have a kids section where it's pedal cars and lowrider bikes. We really want them to be there and showcase their little cars, because that's where it all starts from. And I just want to thank like a lot of the people out there that support us throughout these years. Without them, it wouldn't be possible, and without you all sponsoring us, thank you again.
Motion to approve, sir.
Second.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez, second by Councilor Manny Martinez. Is there any discussion? I do. We typically have never done this for 2 years in a row, and so this one is for 2023 and 2024. Can we do that?
Yes, y'all can do that. We'll just need to make sure that there's any funds approved that would goes into next year's budget at the time of budget approval.
Okay, and then secondly, before we get this contract finalized, Joanne and Arthur's name is
Yes.
not median,
Yes,
it's median.
Medina.
I know they like cars, but their last names aren't median.
No, we're not medians.
Other than that, I didn't see anything else on
The
this.
event is going to be held at the convent also.
That one's gonna be at the Espanola Plaza and the Convento. We are asking to use that as well and to block off the road. It should be on the agreement form to block off Bond Street, just partially of the way. And I will talk to the church that's there because they do host services on Saturday.
It's here, close by.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Right, we have a motion and a second on the floor to adopt this facilities use agreement. Ms. Garcia, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor?
Councilors Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion, and thank you, Lolo and Joanne, for everything that you guys do for the community.
Thank you.
Dorothy D. Valdez,
For the motion.
Aaron J. Salazar,
In favor.
Nanette Rodriguez,
For the motion.
motion carries.
Thank you. Congratulations on your.
Can I also say something I want, because I know they couldn't do public comment earlier because we were kind of like not knowing what we are doing. But the OG veteranas have been and us packing eggs. I mean, like crazy with the city. So I really would like to, invite everybody April 1st for the city. And for the OG Veteranas car show will extend till 6 o'clock after your event. And there's a lot of wonderful prizes for the kids, so bring them out. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
All right, agreement between Santa Fe County and the city of Espanola for inmate confinement presented by Chief Misael Garcia. I know this came before public safety, so it's a recommendation item for full council. Let's come on up, Chief. You want to just do it the same time, Taos County as well? So we have to adopt them separately, but just do an overview of both of them.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, governing body, city manager. As you all know, a few months ago now, we were presented with a memo indicating that our current misdemeanor prisoners were not going to be able to be housed any longer at Rio Arriba. So the end date of the contract was on the exact day that I got the memorandum. So with that being said, I contacted the city manager and he and I immediately began reaching out to local detention facilities here in northern New Mexico. We were able to, first of all, we went up to Taos, we did a tour. we were able to get a contract with them. And they would also house some of our misdemeanor prisoners. Our felony prisoners would still go up to Tierra Maria. But our misdemeanor prisoners would end up going to Taos. And to follow up on that, we also went up to Santa Fe, the Santa Fe detention facility, and they agreed to also enter in a contract with us. So at this point in time, the city of Espanola, to include the Espanola Police Department, we have contracts with the Taos Detention Center and the Santa Fe County Detention Center. So we are able to ensure that any arrests that we make that are misdemeanor in nature will be able to be housed. I appreciate all the work and the effort that the city manager, he and I drove together that same afternoon to Taos, and then within the next day or so, we drove up to Santa Fe. So I appreciate how important it was to him. So with that being said, sir, we presented both of the contracts here before City Council. We had also presented them prior to the Public Safety Committee, where Mayor Pro Tem is the chairman. And I now present to the full council these contracts that we have with both institutions.
Motion to approve the agreement between Santa Fe County and the city of Espanola for inmate confinement.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez. Second by Counselor Aaron Salazar. Ms. Garcia, would you please call the
Under
roll?
discussion, Mayor?
Oh, under discussion.
For the public's information, Chief, please give the amount per night per inmate.
Yes, ma'am. The first amount, and it'll indicate why we went to a second source. The Taos Detention Facility charges us $120 a night per prisoner for them housing our prisoners. That was over the $85 that we were paying with Rio Riba. So as a result of that, we also went up to Santa Fe, and Santa Fe is charging us $85. So the intent that we have is any long-term prisoners that we would have would go to Santa Fe, and Taos would serve as more of our backup, so that if Santa Fe is full, we're able to take them to Taos.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes,
Mayor Pro Tem, it must also be worth noting that both Taos and Santa Fe both offer medical departments inside of their jail, which was a big hurdle for the chief and his officers with Rio Riba County, because any inmate who was not medically cleared could not be entered into the jail.
Exactly, and not only that, I mean, sometimes when we take an inmate to the hospital for a medical clearance, an officer can be tied up with that inmate there for 3 hours or whatever it takes for the physician to make that determination. So for sure, we appreciate their medical facilities within their jail systems. That saves a lot of resources. So thank you, Chief, for your efforts. Thank you, City Manager. Talk about having to get this done on the fly and figure this out actually in the moment, because they cut us off the day that we got the notice. So that's pretty scary for a community not to have an availability of a jail. So, thank you both for you having the connections that you had, Chief, and for being on the phone and connecting with those connections. And thank you, sir, for accompanying him and making sure that we get this done and protect this community.
Thank you. Any other further discussion from the council? Ms. Garcia, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez.
In favor.
Councilors Dennis Tim Salazar,
Yes, for the motion.
Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion?
Dorothy D. Valdez,
For the motion.
Aaron J. Salazar,
In favor.
Nanette D. Rodriguez.
For the motion.
Motion carries.
Next on the agenda is a contract for detainee confinement between Taos County and the City of Espanola Police Department. Motion to approve by Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez. Second by Counselor Aaron Salazar. No discussion. Ms. Garcia, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor.
Councilors Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion?
Dorothy D. Valdez,
For the motion.
Aaron J. Salazar,
In favor.
Nanette D. Rodriguez,
For the motion.
motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. Thank you for handling this. This is a public safety issue and we have to look at the long-term situation of looking at a jail for our community.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So I have a comment on that next. Discussing approving a lease between the city of Espanola and Peak Behavioral Health for the rental of the building located at 1316 Suite E, Calle Adelante, Espanola, New Mexico. I was gonna say coach, yeah, Mr. Jordan Yancey.
Yes, Mayor, we actually have Sandy Manuel and her staff from Peak Behavioral Health, if y'all would like to ask them any questions.
Can you come up real quick and just give us a brief overview to the council about your program, what you're gonna use with the department, and most importantly, Mr. Yutzi, the rent.
Yes. So just to start off with, the rent is $2 square foot. The size of the building comes to a little bit over $22,000 a month in rent.
Good evening. Thank you for having us, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City Manager. We're really honored to be here. We are opening a very robust, clinically strong program that will serve adolescents in the community. It's a partial hospitalization program that encompasses a relationship between the school district as well as us. So the children or the adolescents, rather 12 to 17, they will receive mental health, behavioral health, substance abuse, clinical services, as well as being able to keep up with their education at the same time. It's a 45-day in duration program. If they need more time than that, we can give them more time. So it's not like it's, once a week therapy, family sessions. It is a very rich, deep clinical program that really gets to the root of some of what the problems are. It will enable us to work with the family members. And our long-term goal is to start with adolescents and ultimately open a similar program and have some more space in your building over there to serve adults as well. But that's really where we're starting. We do have Jeanette Espinosa, who's our market outpatient director over the program. We have our director of marketing here, Dina, as well. And we have Kristen, our director of operations here. We're hiring local. We are doing everything we can. I've gotten local connections for all of the various things we need, and we just really plan to be immersed in it in your beautiful community. And that's the short of it. Any questions?
I just want to confirm with the manager, this is a gross lease, not a net lease.
It is a monthly lease.
They're gonna handle the utilities.
We're gonna handle the utilities because it's easier. It's harder for us to put them back into our name. So the utilities, we looked at what the utility cost is right now for PD to be up there, and utilities is not that much.
Okay, so did we build that into the rent?
Yes, it's built into as part of the rent.
I also see here that any improvements done to the facility will become ours at the termination of this lease.
Yes, so if they add walls, add new additional offices, that is just part of our building.
Okay.
What's the term, Paul? I believe it was 3 years.
But the max we can go is for 5 years. I think it's 3 years, and then we have an option with going for 2 more years after that. Because the max we can do a contract for is 5 years at a time.
Possible by either party in 30 days.
Yes.
Motion to approve, sir.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez.
Second.
Counselor Aaron Salazar, under discussion. I just want to commend that we're moving in this direction. That facility was constructed in 2003 on a US Chamber of Commerce loan for $3 million. That facility was never intended to be a government super complex, which has been utilized for the last 15 years. This is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to generate us rent. And I am happy we're going in this route. It goes back to utilizing our facilities in the best way possible. I think that, the long-term plan is to get that building back to what its intended purpose was for a commercial or industrial tenant. I'm tired of Los Alamos National Labs coming and saying, we're looking for warehouse space. We're looking for warehouse space. And the city of Espanola has a gold mine. We have a huge 30,000 square foot building, and we don't even have that ability because lack of foresight has put government offices in that building, and that was not the purpose of that building. So again, I mean, 22,000 according to this, yeah. $22,000 will go a long way a month here with the city of Espanola. That's a fair market value rent as well. I'm excited about this, and I'm excited about getting out the rest of those tenants, not the tenants, getting the rest of those offices out of that building and getting that building back to its intended use to generate revenue for the city. Anyone else have any comments?
Honorable Mayor, I would like to say something.
Okay, Counselor Nanette Rodriguez.
I just want to welcome Peak Development to the city of Espanola. This is a service that's very needed in our community. And so we welcome you and support your efforts in our community. Thank you for considering our community. As you know, there's many issues with our adolescents. There's cycles that we need to break, and just really grateful that you considered coming to Espanola. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Ms. Garcia, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez,
In favor?
Councilors Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion?
Dorothy D. Valdez,
In favor?
Aaron J. Salazar,
In favor.
Nanette D. Rodriguez.
For the motion.
Motion carries.
Well, I just want to confirm, the PD is supposed to be out by April 1st and they'll be moving. That's the.
They'll be moving in, so
comments.
if you look at the current lease y'all have, it has a first day of March on there. We have a new cover sheet to put on there. I just didn't get the police out.
There will be, if the PD is vacating on the first, they're coming in on the second,
Yes.
literally.
She's been trying to move in there with PD for about 2 months.
The PD. Get out of there, Michelle.
Do I have to leave the vote with grass?
Yes.
I mean, let's do it.
Better get out of there quick.
We like the view.
Oh, it's beautiful. All right, discussing approving lease between the city of Espanola and Cyber Mesa Community Computer Systems Incorporated for the installation of a RF transmission site on the water tower by Espanola Valley High School. Espanola High School closed in 1975.
Yes, Mayor, we were approached by the RF, the Cyber Mesa Computer Systems about putting an antenna up on top of the tower. It's gonna help serve a lot of the residents over there with their internet and connection needs. You know, it's not costing us anything. Essentially, they're attaching to the tower, they're putting up solar system, they're responsible for maintenance on it, they're responsible for moving it if we have to do maintenance on our tower. So they're gonna pay us $150 a month to place an antenna on top of the tower.
Motion to approve.
Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez to adopt as presented. Second by Counselor Aaron Salazar. Any discussion?
Discussion, I just feel like any money that the city of Espanola can produce without doing very much or having much maintenance is a plus. I feel like all of these things add value to the community when everybody is able to get a Wi-Fi signal without being blocked by something. It's amazing. I look forward to the day when we all have it.
Soon this summer.
Soon, I'm hopeful that happens very quick, but in the meantime, this definitely will help some people out there.
Ms. Garcia, if there's no further discussion, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Peggy Sue Martinez,
Favor?
Councilors Dennis Tim Salazar,
For the motion.
Manuel J. Martinez,
For the motion?
Dorothy D. Valdez,
For the motion.
Aaron J. Salazar,
In favor.
Nanette D. Rodriguez.
For the motion.
Motion carries.
Thank you all. The time is 8:18. The meeting is now adjourned.